Let's get the Microsoft Research Faculty Summit 2012 going right now. Switching over to the Kodiak room or the Microsoft Conference Center, where Vice President of Microsoft Research Connections, Tony Hay, is about to kick things off at the summit with his opening remarks. Let's listen in.
I'm pleased to see you all here. And I promise I didn't know they were going to play me on to Coldplay. I should explain, my team know the drummer was my babysitter, right? So, and he also has a song called The Scientist, which I quite like. Anyway, so it's great to be here, and it's great to welcome you to the 13th Faculty Summit. So, the Faculty Summit has been going now for 13 years, and it's really an exciting event for me. This is the largest we've had and has 400 people, and they're not all computer scientists. I have to say that they're people from the iSchool community. We have people from the IFIP working group here, and we have even a few scientists hiding around, so I hope they're not too intimidated by all the computer scientists. So these are some statistics about this particular conference. One of the statistics that I find most interesting that is not there is the fact that Microsoft Research has about 800 interns a year, and I think that's around all its labs around the world, and I find that's one of the most exciting and useful things. So that's one of the reasons why we really need to understand the community and keep in touch with the community. So the conference, I really must give my thanks to Susan Dumais, Judith Bishop, and Harold Javid, who are the conference chairs, who put together this program. And it's really an exciting program. And I have a large team around who are helping to try and sort out all the problems. So if there are issues, go to the desk, find someone to help you sort out the problem, to make it an interesting, rich event. What I want to start about is just to remind you what I think is the central role for computer science in the next decade or more for helping the world's economy, helping get employment and so on. So I'll show you a few slides to illustrate that. So this is from a white paper that was done by IDC in 2009. And it's about employment in the IT industry and IT professionals and so on. And from a base of around 36 million in 2009, they predict there'll be a growth of nearly 6 million jobs by the end of 2013. And the important thing here to note is that this growth, 3% a year through 2013, is more than 3 times faster than the growth of total employment. So it's really a significant sector of the whole economy. But globally, I think computer science has the ability to help create new jobs. And as you see around the world, jobs for young people are the most critical things to solve problems in emerging democracies elsewhere. And the IT market will drive the creation of new jobs. Companies, 75,000 new businesses between now and the end of 2030, most of these companies small and locally owned. So I think IT and computer science in particular has a major role to play in actually helping solve some of the problems of the world. I also thought I'd include some good news from the CRA Talby survey. When I was head of the computer science department, I was very lucky. It was the peak of computer science enrollment, and really I was bankrolling the rest of the engineering faculty, and I could blackmail the dean to do more or less what I liked. But of course then it's not been so good since then, and it's very good to hear that now we've had a 10% enrollment last year, and it's the 4th straight year of an increase, and the overall enrollment has really gone up consistently back to high levels. Interestingly, there's at least anecdotal evidence that the growth now in computer science is being constrained not by the number of students who want to do it, but by the universities putting caps on the departments. And that may be because there's not enough staff to teach all these students, but in which case I think it would be useful for the universities to think about perhaps enlarging the computer science departments, because I think that's going to play a key role in the future. So student enrollment is now not the problem, it's the university caps. And of course the problems that the faculty have in teaching all these students, and that's a major challenge as well. And there are interesting movements now in education about how we can teach massively online courses. Well, teaching large numbers of students in your university is still a challenge. So these are just some of the slides that show you this trend. There was the dip around 2007, but now we're not back up to historic levels, but we're getting up there, and that's encouraging. Similarly with the PhD production, that was in CS majors, PhD production dipped, and now it's coming back up again. So I think the field is certainly healthy in that perspective. So Microsoft Research has about 1,000 PhD computer scientists around the world, and what we're most proud of is that the computer scientists are allowed to publish their papers, they participate in conferences, they act on program committees, they give keynotes and invited talks and so on. We're part of the community, and this summit is where we try to make sure that we're connected to the community. We understand, you can understand us and educate us about what's happening out in the real world. So I thought I'd show these things from Microsoft Academic Search. These are CS citation rankings. So if I take citations in computer science all years, this is the sort of list you get with Stanford, MIT, Berkeley at the top. There's Microsoft and IBM research labs, and the whole top 15 I've shown here are all US. The interesting thing is to look at the trend. So if I look for the last 10 years, and I chose this carefully, Microsoft Research comes top, all right? But you also see other things. Google has also appeared in here, but they're all still US universities. But if I go the last 5 years, extremely interesting things happen. Google aren't there, right? That's also interesting. But you see that there are now the Chinese Academy of Science in Tsinghua. There's INRIA from France, and there's now ETH Zurich in the top 15. So I think that shows that there's an internationalization of science, and it'll be interesting to see these trends go on. So I think it's becoming more international, more competitive, and I think that's an interesting thing that you can get from these rankings. Now, if you don't like these rankings, you can go and make your own. There's an API for this, and we have experts in the audience, and you can produce your own ranking. I'm sorry, I apologize. I'm a bit sensitive to these things because in the UK, I had to do 3 times doing the research assessment exercise where they rank your department on publications and impact and so on. And your money depends on what ranking you get. So I got extremely familiar, and clearly you use whichever ranking gives your department best, all right? So I understand how to do it. So this is our effort.
You divide by the number of PhD researchers.
Yeah, you can do all that too, Ed. Yes, I know. And of course, the National Academy of Sciences did something which was not entirely fair, I believe, to UW. So I appreciate these can be manipulated. So I'm inviting you. There's an API for this. You can make your own metrics. Okay. So, but I think really that the computer science community is pretty healthy, and I think it's going to play a central role in the next decade or more. And this is from the US Department of Labor Employment. The computer scientists' job opportunities are going to grow by 19% through 2010. So I believe that the computer science community is in fact key to job creation, which is going to help everybody around the world, and to creating a better world. And just to illustrate that, part of the inspiration now for computer scientists is the fact that you can use computer science tools and technologies to help scientists solve some of their problems. So we have here a book. It's an old-fashioned thing. It's a book, all right? But it's really an electronic version. So you can Creative Commons, you can download it for free. It's available also for Kindle and for the Nook, for Barnes & Noble, and what it shows is some examples of computer science. We called it the 4th paradigm in practice, computer science acting in a huge number of areas, from environment, from global health, from disease, and so on. So there are a limited number of printed hardback versions, and if you wish one, you can have one, but you can also download it for free because it's an electronic book. But I think it does show what computer science can do for the world besides the IT industry. We can actually solve some of the problems or help scientists make progress. So, the Faculty Summit. We have some great keynotes coming up, some aspects of big data. Eric's talk is going to show how a key pillar of our cross-disciplinary research, obtaining insights from big data using machine learning. And tomorrow, Rick Rashid will address another one of the major issues. Computing is now merging the physical and virtual worlds in interesting ways to make explorations in new ways. And so those will be two interesting ways of examining big data. But we also try, before we take you on the lake, on the boat, to have a thought-provoking topic, and we have a great a panel on technology policy about internet governance, and we have Paul Mitchell, Mary Saunders and Sally Shipman-Wentworth who are going to be here this afternoon, and that looks to me like a fascinating panel. So the last talk we have at the end of day tomorrow is by David Brashears of yearGÇÖs. David's climbed Everest, I think it's 5 times, but maybe more. I apologize if I've got it wrong, but he's got wonderful videos and images of the glaciers in the Himalayas, and he's very concerned about the climate change in the Himalayas and the glaciers. And so he's showing another aspect of big data where you have to visualize and see, and you can make interpretations from visualizing the data. So that's a very exciting talk to end with. So the breakout sessions. We have 20 breakout sessions, and our program committee worked very hard to try and identify topics which would be currently of interest in the news and of importance to society and to the technical world. So these include technical issues, social issues, and other societal challenges. And so you'll have a range of things to choose from. And I hope that you are challenged as to which session to choose. And as Judith said last night, if you get into the wrong one, that's great, right? So you may hopefully be stimulated in new ways. So look forward to your feedback about the program afterwards, and tell us what we did right, tell us what we did wrong. But we're hoping that we have some really interesting sessions for you to attend, and I hope to attend myself as many as possible. There's a 21st session, which is actually about collaboration with Microsoft Research. I'm often asked, how can I collaborate with Microsoft Research? Well, actually, you do it the same way as you normally do with colleagues. You network, you meet them at meetings and so on. This is an opportunity for you to understand what our researchers are doing, for our researchers to understand what you're doing. So please use this opportunity for networking, and that's why we have a boat trip, because it captures you for 2 hours on a boat, all right? So you really have to talk to each other with a glass of wine. So I hope you have a good time on that. The only thing I can't guarantee, as I said last night, is the weather, all right? So with luck, it will be dry, and it's a nice thing to go through the locks on a dry day. Okay, so the last thing I want to say, I've talked about visualization in scientific context. I thought, since it's the 20th anniversary meeting conference on AIDS coming up this weekend, I'd say a little bit about big data in a non-scientific context. So this is actually the AIDS Quilt, and this is a digital version of one of the panels in the AIDS Quilt. Started in 1987. People began making the quilt to memorialize those who lost their lives to AIDS, and the NAMES organization began sewing the panels together. And one panel is about the size of a gravestone, 6 foot by 3, and you can put them all together. The panel now has 49,000 panels, the whole quilt, sorry. It weighs 53 tons, and it takes several days to lay it out. It's 1.3 million square feet, and it's going to be laid out this weekend in Washington, D.C. So what we've done is collaborate with USC and Brown to put all these 25 years of photos into an image that you can zoom in and out using the zoom technology you saw in the ChronoZoom type demo before, using various other types of technologies that we've put together. So you can actually either go to the mall and see it yourself, or you can look at it digitally. It'll be on display in the mall this weekend. And it's the 20th International AIDS Conference, as I said. But tomorrow this project will be presented in the breakout session. Big heritage, big quilts, big canvases. And for those of you who are interested in these non-computer science, non-scientific applications, this is a very exciting session. Right, well, I think that's my 15 minutes. So I now get to the really important part of this opening session, which is the Microsoft Research Faculty Fellow Awards. And I'd like to welcome Peter Lee on stage and ask him to join me in presenting the 2012 Faculty Fellow Awards. Peter. Very good. So Peter is the CVP for Microsoft Research and is responsible for running the Redmond Lab, he's responsible for what goes on here, so he's the person you ask if you need to. So since 2005, we've used these Faculty Fellow Awards to recognize innovative young faculty from around the world. We now have alumni, around 50 academic researchers who've received the awards over the years, and each fellowship has a cash award and access to other resources that are useful, as well as engagements with Microsoft Research, invitations to conferences and so on.